Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today, we're going to be talking about a barrel and comp combo for my Glock 17. But before we get into the video, if you want to help me out personally, you can, of course, like, share, and subscribe because all that sort of stuff is free and it does help me out quite a bit. On top of that, comment your favorite adult Lego accessory. Now, I also need to thank the sponsor of the video and the channel, and that is, of course, Gun Deals. If you don't know, Gun Deals is a website that will post links to a wide variety of the best deals on the internet within the gun, firearm, accessory industry. So, if you like saving money on very cool gear, whether you're a budget enthusiast or a high-end guy, they're still going to be posting the best deals for whatever it is that you're looking for. So, if any of that is of interest to you, go ahead and check them out. You can actually find a lot of the components on this Glock from, again, gun.deals. They don't buy or sell anything. They don't take your money. They only point you in the right direction. So with all that out of the way, again, there's also Subscribestar, which is a pro to a Patreon. You also get entered in some cool giveaways. And on top of that, behind me, you can't really see it, but there is a Mark IV sitting there for sale, and very, very soon we will have the Mark Vs up for sale as well. This is a 12.5-inch 5.56, not quite ready yet, although we did film the video on it today, which is why I look the way I do. So now let's go ahead and start off with the barrel that we're using on this highly modified Glock 17 Gen 3. We are not going to be doing a full video on the setup. We will be doing that at a later time, but this is currently the state of Glocks in 2021, late 2021 anyways. But the barrel, full disclosure, is from Bear Creek Arsenal. They sell these on their website for currently $65. I believe I will have a discount code for them for Focustripp. Now, I know some people have thought that that is an affiliate link. It is not. It is only a discount link for you. They don't pay me anything at all. They only send me stuff to review for you guys. So I did get this barrel for free from them. No ammunition, no money, anything else like that. But this is a Glock 17 Gen 1 through 3 barrel replacement, and it is, of course, threaded so you can put on your muzzle devices. We will talk about the muzzle device in just a minute, but getting through some basic specs on the barrel. This one here is their black Nitride 4150 chrome moly vanadium steel. It is a standard manufacturing process. It's not like cold hammer forged or anything else like that. Has a 1 in 7 twist, or sorry, 1 in 16 twist. I'm very used to saying 1 in 7 twist for 5.56 guns, but has a 1 in 16 twist for 9mm. Seems to do a fairly decent job of stabilizing most projectiles. I think there's some arguments in there for different twists, but for the most part, in a 4.5-inch, 4.75-inch barrel, it's going to do just fine. Now, dimensionally, all the machining, everything on it seems identical to my stock Glock 17 Gen 3 barrel when I did a side-by-side comparison. I'll show you guys some side-by-side comparisons of that, but it seems virtually identical, and the machining quality also seems quite high. There's no sharp edges, there's no burrs, anything else like that. It seems to have a similar amount of chamber support as well. The barrel is around the same thickness. Dimensionally, everything fit in perfectly from the get-go, and is very, very smooth right now, though it is sitting in an aftermarket slide as well. This is a Tribe defensive slide. It's not a very good slide, though we'll get into that later on. Now, one of the main draws for me with this barrel is, one, its low price and the fact that it is a threaded drop-in replacement. So the threading on the barrel is 1/2x28, so it's a very, very standard thread pitch. You can get all sorts of muzzle devices in that thread pitch for a wide variety of purposes. I'm not the type of guy to want to suppress a Glock just because this is actually a carry gun of mine. It is in my carry rotation. I carry it in this holster right here, which is cut for an RDS and can accept longer muzzle devices and such like this. This is actually from We the People holsters, and I actually owe them a video on that because they did send me some stuff out to review. Spoiler alert, their holsters are okay.
That was nice!
So on paper, for 65 bucks, you get a threaded barrel. That is, again, a drop-in replacement for your factory Gen 1 through 4 Glock 17s. That is, of course, threaded 1/2x28. The machining quality on it is quite good. The finish on it is quite good. But none of that really matters if it doesn't perform or if it's super inaccurate. So we'll go ahead and talk about performance right now. I have actually ran this in a competition, in a 2-gun competition with just 115 grain ball, and it ran perfectly fine, no issues with the compensator. And since I've had this barrel and compensator combo, I've put about 800 rounds through it, and actually tomorrow, by the time you're seeing this video, I'll have hopefully already competed in another 2-gun match and hopefully cleared it with a perfect score. We'll see about that. But the barrel has been 100% reliable. I believe on the very first round, I had a failure to feed from a bad magazine, so it like came in at like too sharp of an angle, but again, it was a bad mag. But other than that, it's been perfectly flawless with steel or brass cased ammunition. I put about 10 different loads through it. I put Wolf and Tula on the lowest end, and some of that Sentry Arms 9mm, really crappy, dirty steel cased ammunition. On top of that, Winchester white box, Blazer brass, 124 grain, some of that M1152, the military loading, as well as Spear gold dots, so some hollow points that I fed through it as well, only a box or two of that just because it's very expensive to shoot. And 124 grain Scorpio, 124 grain, trying to remember the name, I don't think it was Cellar and Bell, it's some other foreign like Austrian made ammunition. But a wide plethora of loads and qualities of ammunition through this barrel and compensator, which we'll talk about in just a minute, and it has functioned 100% flawless. Now, you'll have seen on my Instagram and stuff like that, if you follow me on Instagram, I did kind of a highlight reel of magazine failures with steel-cased ammunition. My KCI mags are kind of going out. Actually, I have one right here. This is a old KCI magazine with a +3 extension on it, and when you fill these guys up like that, the springs die quite quickly, so I actually just need to replace the springs on these guys and they'll be just fine. But the Magpul magazines, the Magpul mags do not like to feed steel-cased ammunition. Though again, I don't really clean these, and if I did clean or lubricate them, I would probably get a little bit better performance out of it. But the barrel, for all intents and purposes, is identical to a stock Glock 17 barrel, except for the fact that it does give you that added benefit of being able to thread on muzzle devices, whether that's some sort of recoil mitigation device or flash hiding device, though I don't know why you would put a flash hiding device on a 9mm handgun. Except for some sort of special application, I suppose, or a suppressor if you like to suppress handguns. Again, for my personal use, because I use these in like a duty holster, all that sort of stuff, I'm not ever going to run one of these suppressed full times. Maybe again for special applications, but for most of the time, it's either going to be running without a muzzle device or with a compensator on it. Now, with all that out of the way, for 65 bucks, I think that the barrel does a very good job. It's nothing special, though we do need to talk about accuracy before I forget about it. Now, some people are going to tell me this is good accuracy, some people are going to tell me this is terrible accuracy, but I believe I did 4 different groups, some 115 Wolf, 115 grain Winchester white box, some 124 grain Scorpio, and 124 grain Spear gold dot. Now, this was all done from the prone, rested on a bag at 25 yards. And I'll go ahead and start rolling in the groups, but with the Wolf, I think I did about 3.5 inches. With the 115 grain Winchester, I did about 4 inches, and then about 4 to 5 inches with the other 2 ammunitions as well. Now, in my mind, I was hoping for better performance at 25 yards, because again, that's about 12 to 15 inches at 100 yards if you extrapolate out the difference. However, I believe that's fairly standard for Glocks and other handguns, is about anywhere from 3 to 5 inches at 25 yards. I know that 1911s and 2011, sometimes they'll rate it all the way down to like 2 inches at 25 yards. But again, for me and my applications, I didn't have any issues hitting with this barrel and compensator dot combo out to 100+ yards, and I've never noticed the inaccuracy come into play when actually shooting. Anytime I missed a shot, it was my own fault, or I didn't have the optics zeroed properly, which is again also my own fault. So while some people are going to argue down in the comments, and I should mention that I don't know what the actual accuracy is supposed to be from a stock Glock 17. So I'll let you guys decide whether or not that accuracy is acceptable for you. Again, for me, I haven't had any problems hitting like 11 by 20s out to 100 yards, which is hopefully much further than I will ever need to take a shot with a Glock 17. But for me, it never held me back in true performance. But if you're just trying to sit there and shoot the tiniest of groups, I don't think that this barrel is going to do it for you. I know there's a lot more accurate handgun designs and probably some better Glock barrels in terms of accuracy. So I would say that the accuracy is okay, if nothing special whatsoever. Though again, the reliability has still been there and has still been flawless with, again, mostly steel cased ammo is mostly what I shoot with this gun and Compensator. So now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the second half of this video, and that is going to be on this somewhat diminutive micro Compensator. Now, I actually bought this Compensator from eBay for $35 from KTCraftsmn, who's a seller on eBay. He has a lot of different products on there as well. I paid my own money for it. He doesn't know that I'm making this video, or whoever runs that account doesn't know I'm making this video, but they do sell a lot of different designs. This is what they call their Conceal carry Compensator. So it is perfectly the width of the slide. It doesn't add anything left or right, up or down, which means that it's going to have better holster compatibility, as long as your holster has an open bottom design to accept, again, longer barrels or compensators. It's going to fit through there just fine, and it's not going to snag because, again, it is as wide or thinner than your slide in every dimension. So again, it's not going to create a snag hazard, which for a concealed carry or duty style Compensator is something that I absolutely wanted. Now, my methodology for purchasing a very small Compensator was I wanted it to do a very small amount of work, because the more compensating work that your muzzle device is doing, the more energy it steals from your slide. The less energy your slide has in its reciprocating force, the more or the less reliable it becomes, especially with certain ammunitions. So for instance, I wanted a very small Compensator that provided a decent amount of benefit, and it does provide a decent amount of that benefit. If you shoot this side by side with any other stock Glock or non-comped Glock, it is going to be a smoother, nicer feeling gun. It does not remove recoil. It's not like crazy race guns or anything else like that. I would say in terms of percentages, it's maybe only 15%, 20% less recoil. But what that means is you get a much softer, much smoother shooting gun that still maintains reliability, because again, that Compensator is not working super hard. Now, it should be mentioned that this is the stock spring as well, so I'm not running like a reduced power spring or anything else like that. And it's still running steel case perfectly, which is exactly what I wanted, because that's what I buy in bulk. I buy thousands of rounds of steel case 9mm at a time, and I need to make sure that the guns that actually shoot that for me will continue to shoot it reliably so I can make videos for you guys. So this micro Compensator takes that snappiness that sometimes you get from 9mm. It's not the most heavy recoiling cartridge in the world, of course, though handguns do recoil more than rifles. And it takes that from having to really focus on your grip to shoot quickly to now being able to focus a little bit more on your trigger pull, your sight alignment, all that sort of stuff. For me, the way that I'm utilizing the Compensator in my shooting is that I'm not necessarily death gripping the gun the entire time, because again, I want to focus more on my trigger pull and on my sight alignment, and allowing that Compensator to take off the edge of the recoil so I can still shoot very quickly. Now, inside of 50 yards, this is basically a laser beam. You can fire off multiple shots per second and still hit, decent sized targets at out to 50, 60 yards, again, depending on your skill level. And so for me, this very compact handgun, even though it is a bigger handgun, but compared to other more serious types of guns, this is still a very, very small package. It gives me near rifle-like performance and precision in a very, very small and concealable package. So basically, I wanted a handgun that shot much more like a rifle, something where I'm not really super concerned about recoil control like on 5.56 or something else like that. I want to be more focused on my trigger pull and my sight alignment than having to really spend a lot of my brain power, a lot of focusing power on reducing that recoil or keeping the muzzle down. I want to be focused on my sight alignment, my trigger pull, all the other fundamentals behind that. Now, I'm still using good grip fundamentals when I'm shooting this, and I do have a very aggressive, fairly strong grip on the gun, but again, I'm not death gripping it, and I'm not just fighting that recoil the entire time. So I'm using that Compensator to allow me to focus more again on my trigger pull and sight alignment so I can hit those targets faster, because I'm still going to be waiting, the 0.14, the 0.15, whatever sort of splits that I'm able to get out of it while my dot is up and coming down. So now, if I was just absolutely death gripping it, you can absolutely Make sure that that dot does not move. But even as it is, when I'm doing more focusing on, again, where I'm putting that dot, how I'm pulling the trigger, how my finger's indexing upon the trigger, all that sort of stuff, even in this window, which is a Sig Romeo 1, the dot just bounces up to the top of the window and right back down, so you never have to lose your dot during recoil, which in a handgun is a huge advantage. Now, this is still not what I would consider like a perfect carry compensator, and it does have a couple very minor drawbacks. So, for instance, you are going to get a tiny bit more flash and a tiny bit more unburnt powder spewing in all directions. So for instance, my wife was actually shooting this and I was standing about 5 or 6 feet off to the left, and that stuff is coming out of that compensator, so it's going to come off and hit whoever is standing next to you if there's a little bit of unburnt powder from really, really crappy steel cased ammunition. So a very minor downside, not something that's actually going to come into play in like a more serious situation, but it is, again, just a downside of most muzzle brakes in general. Now, the design is an aluminum design, which some people is going to be a turnoff for. For me, it's perfectly fine. You are almost never going to be able to get a Glock hot enough to get aluminum weak enough to the point where it will fail. For instance, aluminum does fairly well up until it gets to about 400 or 500 degrees, and then its mechanicals start to drop off very quickly. However, to get a Glock up to 400 or 500 degrees takes a lot of shooting very quickly. So I usually shoot anywhere from 200 to 300 rounds in about an hour to an hour and a half, and again, I've never had an issue with it whatsoever. Now, if you're the type of guy who does 500 rounds in 5 minutes, then you might want something steel. However, for most people, especially for the concealed carry sort of market, I think the compensator is going to do just fine. Now, it is a clamp-on style, so it has basically you thread it on and then you clamp it on. They recommended like 18 inch-pounds of torque. I think I did 25 on both the screws. On top of that, I use Permatex 272, which is a high-temperature thread locker, which will retain its thread locking abilities up to 450 degrees, which again, as I just mentioned, is very, very difficult to reach in any sort of normal use case with a 9mm handgun. So unless you got like a full auto Glock, or again, you just like to sit there in one target and do 500 rounds in 5 minutes, like Sage Dynamics or something else like that, the thread locker and the aluminum compensator are never going to become an issue except in some very, very extreme circumstances. Now, I really like this setup. I would absolutely recommend it. The total cost of this setup in this Glock 17 was $100 for the compensator and barrel, $65 for the barrel, $35 for the compensator. So for me, it was a no-brainer upgrade, and honestly, I could sell my OEM barrel and actually probably make a little bit of money off of it. But on top of that, I am using a TLR1 clone from LAPG. It's the LAPG slide rail weapon light, 800 lumens. It does a very, very good job. It's basically just a TLR1 HL. But this is a Glock 19 from Lone Wolf Arms. This is their LDT 19. It's a pretty nice little Glock, and we'll talk about that in the future for sure. But side by side, even though the Glock is shorter, that compensator only adds an extra quarter inch or so of actual carrying length, which means that if I had to choose between the two of these, this one shoots extremely well compared to a more standard-ish Glock feeling, although this one here, it does have a different recoil impulse than a Glock. It's a very, very lightweight gun. But the compensator plus a light, because most people are carrying lights on their guns, so I'm not sure why most people are carrying like 19s and stuff with like a X300U or a TLR1 when they could be having a longer barrel, more stability, better shootability, that sort of thing. Other than just, I get the shorter grip and that sort of thing, which is for most people the harder part to conceal. But for me, because again, that barrel length doesn't really matter, it's only adding an effective quarter inch further than the rim of my light. That compensator does an excellent job. And again, because it has been 100% reliable with steel cased ammunition and with brass as well, and I ran this in competitions, no issue whatsoever. I do have a very, very high degree of trust in its reliability. At its heart, it is still a Glock, even though it is using almost entirely aftermarket parts at this point. Should be noted that all of the internals are OEM though. All of the springs, everything on the inside, other than a few little things, are completely OEM. So that's the way I would always recommend running your Glocks, is basically with OEM internals. And then if you want to go aftermarket in your slide and barrel and maybe a trigger shoe or something else like that, absolutely go for it. But Overall, that is the video on a very, very budget barrel and compensator setup for your Glock 17, and you could also do this for a Glock 19 or 26 or whatever else that you wanted to do it with. But that is the video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace off.